Okay, so on these notes, we're going to go over 6.2, the natural base of e. So find that page in your notes if you haven't already and follow along. We talked about e last class, and we talked about how it is a natural number and how we get it. It is e, remember, is approximately 2.718. There's a bunch of other decimals there. Basically on this page, all you're doing is you're practicing graphing when your base is e. Now when base is e, it's going to look a little bit different than we saw before. We saw y equals a times b to the x when we were graphing exponentials before. And today, instead of your base being a b, you can see it's going to be e. And instead of the exponent just being an x, it's going to be rx. Okay, now the value of r can be both positive and negative, and if the value of r is positive, meaning greater than 0, you're going to have a growth function when graphing. And if the value of r is less than 0, it's going to be decay. So if r is less than 0, that means that it is negative. So again, this is talking about having something that's negative. This is talking about having a value that's positive in the exponent position. So that gives you a little bit of information there. The other thing about these problems is that the a value for these problems will always be greater than 0. So it'll be positive. You can see here that it is possible for it to have a value added here. We had talked about how that value is a number that is added on. I'm just going to call it k. And that number is going to help to determine where your asymptote is going to go, just like it did before. So you can see right here, this value of 1 is telling you that your asymptote is not going to be at y equals 0. It's going to be up 1, so at y equals 1. So let's go ahead and practice one of these. It's actually pretty simple. You just have to plug this into the calculator. I think the trickiest part is actually plugging it into the calculator. So I can see from this problem here that the r value is greater than 0. It is actually 1. So this is going to be a growth problem. You could also answer that question after you have graphed it and see that it's growing, going left to right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the calculator. So I'm going to show you how to put y equals 3e to the negative 2 in the calculator that we use in class. So let me switch over to that here. So the way that you do this is you are going to put your exponent in first. So an exponent of negative 2. So you press 2, switch it to negative. There's your exponent. To get this e to the power of x, you have to do second ln. That is e to the negative 2 power. You're then going to press times 3, press equals. You should get 0.406. You can round that to 0.41. So going back over here, this is going to be 0.41, and then you can continue to plug those values in. I think to the 0 power is going to be the easiest because e to the 0 power would just be 1. 1 times 3 would be 3. So you can see that that's pretty simple to do. So I would pause the video and try plugging in -1 and plugging in 1 to make sure that you know how to do it as well. So you're going to plug in -1. You should have got 1.1. And then when you plug in 1, positive 1, you would have got 8.15. Now you can see that this does not have a k value, so this is going to have your asymptote is going to be at y equals 0. So that's right here, dash line, or you can use a highlighter there. And then plugging, and then graphing the points. You have 0, 3. I have 1, 8.15, so like right there. I don't know why I do the positives first, but I did. -1, and then up 1, and then a little bit, and then -2, and then up like almost halfway. So you can see that over here, our graph connects and it's growing, going left to right. Make sure over here, as you graph this, it goes right along the asymptote arrows on each end. So the only thing that's going to change about number 2 is they've given you different values to plug in. The values will be given to you because it is a little tricky to figure out which ones to use. But what I will tell you is that your asymptote, like this asymptote was at y equals 0 because there was no value out here added on. This one will have an asymptote at y equals 1. So it's going up 1 from y equals 0. It's going up 1 to right here. That's where your asymptote is going to be. So this is the asymptote. And if they asked you to name that, that would be at y equals 1. Okay, and you can see also that this one is growing, going left to right. It's getting bigger. This one, the R value is negative, so the type on this one is going to be decay. Again, you can answer that right away, or you can, see what happens with these values as you go left to right. They should be getting smaller, and your graph should start up here and go down. Remember, it should not cross the asymptote, and it should not touch the asymptote. So you can take some time and practice the rest of these on your own and make sure you understand how to do them and ask questions as needed. I hope this video helped you.